Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Living in Multipotentiality. My name is Marianne Hutchings, and you can find me on Twitter at Luscious Tech. And this is my illustrious co-host, OJ Singh, and you can find him on Twitter at Global Multipods. So welcome again. It's lovely to see you, OJ. How are you?
Good, great. Feeling good as usual. Typical multi-potentialite answer. Feeling good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm feeling great, and I have a lot of stuff on the go.
Yeah. A lot of things are going in the mind, and then between those ups and downs, you have to feel good. Even you don't, you have to feel good because this gives a lot of satisfaction to the next person, and maybe he has some bigger problem than you. But if you can just tell them, okay, everything is this is not the end of the world. Everything's going perfect. You should be glad for something. Okay, you have this thing. Yeah, you have this thing. Okay, yeah. So the person will come back to, okay, you reminded me I am blessed, so I'll be happy. So this is one thing which I ever keep in my mind all the time. So that keep others happy. Your situation doesn't matter. It's just my thinking.
Yeah, it's almost like a little game that I play sometimes with when you're talking to somebody who's always negative all the time, or somebody who is maybe not just not seeing the blessings that they actually do have in their lives, and they're very focused on where they are and that they're frustrated and that they can't get things done. And a lot of the time I just kind of look at people and I'll say, so tell me something that is good. Tell me something you're grateful for. And, and it just kind of stops, it interrupts the pattern. And it's like, and well, I'm healthy, or my family's healthy, or my kids are doing great. And some people just don't even want to play the game. They're just like, well, yeah, I have a lot of good stuff in my life, but blah, blah, blah.
This might be the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to buy this. Okay, she may not love me. My parents don't like me. A lot of things, and these are all common to everyone. Everyone, something common to some people, other things common to other people. But at the end, what I feel is life is very small. Earlier, I was reading a book where it mentions people few years ago, few centuries ago, they used to stay for 115 years and 200 years. That was normal for them. And now, how long we live? 60, 70 years, and the active life is just 40 years. And till the age of 25 years studying, and 30 or 35 years just settling down. And we will not know when this active life and the life would just go end anyways in a moment. And I tell people life is an illusion, don't worry. After that you will have a lot of lot of things. So if big person comes to me and says that, okay, what will I do when I'll be 50? After that you will have a lot of things, don't worry. You go and watch the ND videos in the YouTube, near death experience in the YouTube, you will have a lot of information what happens after that. So you have a lot of good things happen. You go, you don't have to worry about your money, you don't have to worry about the kids. So you can fly also. So I do a lot of funny jokes to them when a person is so depressed.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the whole question of having a really long life, sorry, that just something that just kind of brought a thought to me. It used to be that people lived longer, and that it was very difficult to bring children or babies into this world because, it was very dangerous. And, of course, like, women have babies all the time, but as far as complications, there are a lot of things where it can take the life of the mother and the baby. So then it seems as life expectancies shortened, the technology for bringing babies to life became better, but now they're saying that we're starting to live longer again.
Yeah.
So they're saying, yeah. So, because I think in like our grandparents' generation, there were some people that had really long lives. But I mean, I think life expectancy sort of beyond 60 or 70, you'd find someone who's very exceptional that would have a very long life. I mean, I've got a couple people in my family. My grandmother on my dad's side, she was, I think she was 98 when she passed away. or sorry, no, 93 when she passed away. But on my mom's side, my grandmother passed away when she was in her mid 70s. So, you know, and also they had very, very different lives. You know, they both had children. They both, you know, worked very hard, but different kinds of work sometimes too, you know, and then different health challenges and health problems. And you kind of look at, well, where and how is that going to impact me in my life? So I'm very mindful of that because I want to have a long life and be a happy and fit older person.
Yeah, everyone should be just that way. And I think after 50 or 60, if you're healthier and if you die happily, there's no match at all. But if you struggle at the last moment, it's not easier for that person, and then for others who are around that person to see his or her condition, which could be very much disheartening and depressing for the other people. So I wish, let's see, be happy, enjoy the life. I think someone's died. Yeah. Hi.
Good morning. This is a friend of mine. There we go.
How do you pronounce his name?
So the person that you see, Revenant CNC, that is my friend Curtis. He lives here in Calgary.
Hi, Curtis. Welcome.
So, I had a thought that went perfectly. It was a perfect segue into what you were just talking about, and I lost my train of thought completely.
So you were imagining how would you look when you would be old? When you would be 80, how would you look?
No, because you know what? All I have to do is look at my mom, and I look a lot like my mom, and my mom is beautiful, and I tell her so all the time, and she's very modest. So she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, you're only saying that because I'm your mother," she says. And I'm like, "Mom, no, you're beautiful." So, but we were talking about life expectancies and the things that we can do. Well, I guess the things that we can do to increase our life potential. But it's when I look at this from a multi-potentialite point of view, I go, this is what I was thinking, was that, you know how a lot of people always say, it's too late. It's too late for me to go to university. It's too late for me to start a business. I'm too old for this, that, or the other thing. There are certain things like going and partying all night and coming home at 5 a.m. Yeah, I feel like, you know, that's not something that's exactly fitting with my life at the moment. But the one thing that I do see, and that if you put into perspective, is that if we are going to have a very long life, and you're going to live to be 80 or 90. And if you start something at 40, you could have another 40 years of developing expertise in something. Or even people who are 30 to 40 looks like a really big gap. It looks like it's going to be this, oh my goodness, you know, by the time I'm 40, I need to have all of my stuff figured out. Well, if you start at 30, let's say if someone wanted to become a doctor, they could be a doctor by the time they're 40. But most people think, well, if I didn't start it in my 20s and it's 7 years of school, and, you know, someday you're going to be 40 or you're going to be 50 anyway. So what are you going to do with that time? You know, are you going to spend it doing things that everybody else thinks you should be doing? And I lived a good part of my life that way, and I was very unhappy. So I think if you start looking at the now and go, well, even if I started something brand new today, that in 10 years time, looking back on it, I would have developed expertise in an entirely new field. So, I mean, what do you think of that? You know, the whole time versus learning something new concept.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. I think after I touched 30, when I touched 30 years of my age, I learned a few lessons and I just wrote it down somewhere once. So I think it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter to people around you what you're doing, and it only happens to yourself. If you're not happy within, and then you obviously have to regret. You know, maybe may not be today, maybe after 40 years. So why not just do whatever you want to, and it doesn't matter if you're 30, if you're 40, or if you're anyone listening to this video, if you're 45 or 50, I'd still encourage. I'll give you an example here. I was reading the autobiography, so I came across KFC. I usually read business case studies, so I was reading a case study of KFC chicken. So the person who founded that chicken, I don't remember his name. He was 68. He was working in a in some kebab corner, and then he founded this idea. Why not do something of my own? And he was 68. By the time we cannot even imagine, if we were that age, we would say, okay, now we are retired. Now we'll be on the bed, and then we will finally count our days. But at the age of 68, he founded his company KFC, and then the idea spread like anything, and it just spread quickly to other parts of the world. And by the time in next 7 or 8 years, if I remember correctly, he became a billionaire from nothing to a billionaire, and he died at the age of 87. So still, he had those 19 odd years to create the history, and this was such an example. So it is in front of us. And like Jack Ma of China, Alibaba, founder of Alibaba, he was 31 and he started Alibaba, and he was the only one he was rejected from several jobs one after other, and it went for the next 10 years. And at the age of 31, he just set up Alibaba, and within like few years, miracle happens. He became a millionaire, and people now acknowledge his talent. And it all happens twice. It's like synergy kind of thing. 2 plus 2 is not 4. 2 plus 2 is 8. So it just multiplies quickly. Mm-hmm. And I believe in it. I started after reading those autobiographies. I started believing in those kind of miracles, because when you listen to your heart, your luck multiplies. I don't know how it works. I am an astrology student. I don't know how it works. Some angels listen to you, cosmos just supports you, or something happens, the luck multiplies. And that is why I suggest everyone to just follow your heart. It doesn't matter your age, 40, 50, 60. And some people actually practice this. They become like, instead of just becoming a person with a lot of ego and a lot of showing off the wealth, some people actually again become a child. So the personalities which are easy to connect, if you see, after 40 years, they just behave like a child. They're just like a cool person. And over the period of time, they would have learned that way. They have evolved that way. And they know the truth is in when you follow your heart, then your brain.
Oh, sorry. I'm grabbing an article really quickly here that this is one of my my favorite articles. There's a couple of different versions of it, but it's people who became successful after 40. And, you know, I've seen this kind of article circulated in Business Insider. I think it's also been in Inc. magazine, but one of the people that they feature in the article is Vera Wang. And she's a very well-known designer internationally, primarily for her wedding dresses, but also for her other collections, because she's got beautiful casual wear and evening gowns. I mean, I have one and I absolutely love it. And, you know, it's just, she decided to do something different. And she didn't have a background in fashion. She just decided to go ahead and do it one day, which that is, whenever I have someone tell me, you know, I think it's too late for me or I'm too old, I usually dig out this article, which is from, what was that, 2014? So that was from 2 years ago. And I show them that article and I'm like, here's some inspiration for you. It's never too late, especially people who are under 40 that are telling me they think it's too late. And I look at them and I'm like, okay, so these are people who are older than you that have built successful empires and dynasties in some cases, as far as the scope of what they've developed. Yes, we all have read those articles about the, you know, the top 30 under 30, the top 40 under 40, these people that are barely out of diapers that have, you know, built a $1 billion business online. I mean, you know, and I find those stories just as inspiring, because if you think that at any age you can have that idea, that golden, amazing idea that is going to drive your successes and your life. It can happen at any time. It's whether or not people choose to act upon it.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. I definitely agree. And most of the writers, I think, they start their writing careers later in their life because they will have to get some experiences in different world and different situations. They might struggle, they might fail, and then only they can understand what to write and how to inspire the world. And it normally would not come at the age of 20. It would come at the age of 35 or 45. This is when they start writing books, they become poets, or they become a different kind of personality. I don't know if I will be in that situation at age of 35. I just keep in mind, I have ambition to write a book one time, at least some point in time, maybe at 40. So I just observe that people who are they start later, and then once their book is published and it is spread quickly, so they become known personalities, and it doesn't matter if they do this at 60, they do it 70, and as long as they fulfill their true calling, what is being follow their own heart, I think they are good to go. It doesn't matter if you're doing it 15, 20. Yes, it is always better to start early and then become billionaire and probably then end up as a monk.
Yeah.
So it's always better to start late so that you don't end up becoming a monk in the Himalayas somewhere. Have you read that book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari?
The which?
The book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
No, you know what? I haven't sold a Ferrari. No, I haven't. I haven't read his book, but that's Robin Sharma, and I've read another one of his book that was called The Leader Who Had No Title. And that's another fantastic book. I want to read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, because Robin Sharma, the way he puts things into prose, and he takes a life lesson and he puts it into something that people can relate to. You know, I find that he has a really great way with storytelling that is relevant. And I know there are some people that when they look at business books or when you're learning a life lesson, that they want to read a pure autobiography. Well, I personally like autobiographies to a certain extent, but I also like books that are written with not just the facts, but that have something that's relatable. There's a book called, I think it was called The 1 Minute Millionaire or something like that. It's a beautiful book, and it's like the purple cover and it's got a butterfly on it. I see it. And that book was written in such a way that they had one side of the book. So half of the book was purely factual. It was formulas, it was strategy, it was a plan on how you could achieve that. The other half of the book, which is the side of the book that I read, because I prefer stories, I read the story. It was a fictional story, but that had all of the knowledge from the first half of the book put into the story. And I found the story very compelling because it talked a lot about what are you willing to do? If you had 1 week to raise $1 million, what would you do? And where does that come from? And what are the things that are stopping you? And, you know, it was an excellent book. I thought that they did a brilliant job in writing it in the 2 sections. Because I know people that are like, I just want the numbers. I need the facts. You know, the story is a nice thing to have, but I want to have the concrete facts and figures to work with. And that's totally okay. My brain does not work that way. There are some things where it's like, if I need a budget, if I'm working on an event, sure, that absolutely, I need to have definite numbers or at least an approximation that we can work with. But when I'm trying to absorb something like a new concept of building success or building something new or doing something that's really far outside my comfort zone, I need to have a story that will tug at my heartstrings a little bit. And that's just the way I am. I mean, that's why I enjoy reading so many different kinds of books, because I get different things from different styles of writing. So, but yes, sorry, that was a whole tangent on.
Yeah, to add on, I could just think of why the writer wrote in the book in two parts. Probably he would be targeting people who are left brainers, people who like facts without a story, and the right brainers who like reading a story and then relating back to it.
Yeah.
So this is the best marketing idea I ever heard from anyone.
Now tell me though, what was your biggest takeaway from The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari? Because I haven't read it yet, so I want to know what did you get from it, and give me a little quick synopsis on it if you wouldn't mind, because I'm interested in reading that book.
Okay, so the book started with the story of a person who is very successful as an advocate in US, and he buys everything, yet he would not happy and satisfied from within. Then, long story short, he decides to learn spirituality, and he comes to India, and from India he goes to Himalaya, and he encounters a saint in Himalayas who guides his path towards spirituality and moksha. And after spending his so many years as a very normal person without any wealth, he was a completely transformed person. So he then comes back to US and he meets his old friend who is still an advocate, and then the conversation begins, and this is the whole story book is all about. And the conversation is so interesting and fascinating. Then at like the problem that we have today in the corporate world or in the business or as a professional, from anyone, maybe a doctor, maybe a advocate, that we just keep within. He just opened it up very beautifully, and then there was a debate, kind of a debate goes on between his best friend who's still an advocate and this person who came back after spending so many years in the Himalayas and become a monk and dressed in that yellow robe. And then the debate is, what do you do, why you are doing this? Okay, then it should not be happen this way, it should be this way. And about the karmas, so if you do this, so what are you getting from it? And all those things where we stop thinking, it starts from there. And I just tell you this much only because I don't want to so just read it. So once you read, you will just immerse into it, and don't forget to come back to BLAB every Wednesday.
Well, it definitely sounds like something that I want to read. And, you know, this makes me think of another book. And of course, a number of years ago, it was incredibly popular and a lot of people discussed it from various points of view. But it's Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love. That book, and I've read Eat, Pray, Love, and it's a beautiful story, but it is her story. So, and she talks about, and what I really enjoyed about this book is that you see the transitions from being someone who is a professional writer, who is incredibly unhappy, who seeks solace and, you know, pretty much goes to the divine and asks for something to change or for an answer. And that it's from that point forward where she really kind of connects with what is divine within herself and also what is out there, and that she starts moving towards a path where she finds happiness. And then she wrote another book afterwards as well that I haven't read that one, but it's more about her journey once she was coupled again, if you will, and the challenges that come with that. But in Eat, Pray, Love, you see her go from this person who is just sad and feels like she's lost everything about herself and that she doesn't know herself, and she lives in Italy, and she goes to Italy and lives this life of social well-being, where she has a very close group of friends, and that, you know, the story around their Thanksgiving dinner in Italy was absolutely hysterical. And they only touch upon certain points of it in the movie, which is why I tend to enjoy the books over the movies. But, you know, she also chooses a word that has to do with her. and what her word is to sort of describe where she is or what she's going through in life. And she chooses the word attraversiamo, which means to cross over. And in French, it's like the word traverser. Or some people would think a traverse in mountain terms is a spot where it's usually a fairly narrow path or sometimes a wider path that gets you from one place to another. And with attraversiamo, when she is crossing over, she chooses that word, and it's very, it really exemplifies where she's going. She's crossing over to a different phase of her life, and that she's also found some happiness again. And then the next stage of her life, when she goes to India and she is studying with the guru, and she, has this incredible personal journey. And at one point, she is on a rooftop and she is alone, after having, a very good heart-to-heart with one of the more difficult characters that is there at the ashram with them. And he really challenges her to let things go. And so she's on this rooftop and she realizes that she can actually let go of something, and she can have a conversation with that person without them actually being in the room, and that she was able to ask for forgiveness and move on in her life. And I think that that the best thing about that is that so many people feel that they need to have a confrontation of some sort with the actual physical person in front of them so that they can let go or move past it. But usually that kind of confrontation, to a certain extent, just breeds more confrontation. And that, and with her, and this is actually an experience that I've had personally, where I was able to, ask for forgiveness and forgive someone in my life that had already passed away. And that I was able to have that conversation and feel that I had completed something and just let it go. And that freed me up to look at other areas of my life where I was incomplete or that I needed to move on. And, and I feel how this kind of all relates areas of your life that you have tied up with disagreement or discord or previous hurts that you're holding on to, the less of that space you have to create something new and to create something beautiful. Does that make sense?
True. Yes, it definitely makes sense, because I studied astrology, and why I can relate more is, I know there are some Mahadashas, if you know what Mahadashas are. These are phases of life where some energy changes you after a certain period of time. For example, if you have observed some people, they were struggling for a few years, and then something happened, their life completely changed, or vice versa. So why it happens is, each one of us is born with certain planetary combinations, and those are the same for all the people, but positions are different. For example, you could be going through a different phase of life, which I will call in astrological terms as Mahadasha, and I could be going through a different phase of life. What happens, that particular planet, for example, if the particular planet for which, for example, you're going through the Mahadasha of Jupiter, so that will last for 1 year. So next 1 year, where the Jupiter is placed, that particular area of your life will brighten up, because Jupiter is giver of life. Similarly, when it comes to spirituality, there are two planets which affect the person's mind and bends his inclination towards spirituality. It happens once or twice in each one's of life, but it all depends if the person is born with that particular dasha in his childhood. That will not come again until his next 60 years, because because it is a sequential, it is in a chronological order. So if, for example, the energy of Ketu, KETU, that is a south node of moon. So what happens is, that dasha comes in person's life in 30s or 40s. What happens is, the person immediately decides to go out of the chaos. He just wants to be at peace, starts meditating more, and there's a transformation that others can see in that person. They understanding how it works. In other for example, the Dasha, Mahadasha, the phase of Saturn, which lasts about 19 years in life, makes a person a lot more struggling. And then the person, for example, puts 2x of 4x of hard work and gets only 2x of reward. This is happens for 19 years. And the person doesn't know why it happens against a dasha of Jupiter or Venus, where you just put some effort and you get a lot of reward out of it. And the person, I'm very lucky. I'm going through a lucky phase of life. Actually, not many people know there is a whole planetary uh, components that come into play and that are actually playing with your mind. And then you don't know where the idea come from. It's just, I'm now a genius. You are not. Something is entering your mind, which is affecting your mind, and then you think accordingly. And what you think, as Swami Vivekananda and many other scientists say, what you think, you just create around you, and this is your life. That is why you are responsible for your own life. For example, in the dasha of Rahu, which is the north node of the moon, if you go into details, you will. This is the basics of astrology. These are basic terms in astrology. What happens? The person is very anger, and then a person can actually cheat anyone with, and it looks normal to that person. It's okay. I've just cheated with that person. I've done this fraud. That's okay. And the person's mind is very sharp, and even his or her spouse would not know why this person is behaving like this, what dasha is, and this is where the conflicts happen. And a lot of people, when they come to me for the astrological consultations, one question is common: my wife doesn't understand me. What could be? I'm right at my end, but I don't know why she's not understanding. So when you next time you come, you bring your details of your wife also. I'll show you the charts and how it works and why there's a conflict. So you have to let it go. These are so simple things. I wish it could have been taught to every person who is studying in school, so that they don't have the problems later in the life. And it works into management also. It works in organizations also. How people think, why people clash, why people think differently, why some people just want to do business instead of job. Why? Because they may be going through a sun madasha. Sun is for business, sun is for powerful authority. And why the person over the period of time has become more egoistic? Because they could be going through sun madasha. There's nothing wrong in it. This is the problem. Every person thinks that I'm right, the other person is wrong. No, the other person is going to such a dasha, such a frame of mind that does not go with your dasha at this point in time. But he's not wrong. Understanding this is, there's a lot of things actually involved in the world of astrology and still learning after spending so many years, and it works. It actually works. Why I came into this multipotentialite thing? I just validated from astrology that this alignment will actually be lead to person thinking to be creative and spread in all directions, and person is scattered. For example, a person who is scattered creatively, if you see his house, it will be scattered. So it's just an example of how where it comes from and how it affects. And when the person starts working on one thing and then his mind goes to other, but he won't like, okay, I don't want to get into this. I will start another thing. Okay, I don't want to get into that. I'll switch to other thing. And it is normal. Other people will not agree because they don't know the frame of the mind of this person, and the person might think, without knowing astrology, that something is wrong with me. But because no one has actually mentored that person, and the person himself is not into astrology, and he would be just like a goat who is doing rotation and rotation. There's a lot of things actually. So I would suggest if we do a separate session sometime later on astrology, there will be a lot to discuss.
Well, and now I actually wanted to bring it up this week that I would really love for you to do my chart for me, and I'll send you whatever details it is that you need. But that is something that I really, at this point, I would really love to have, because especially the way you do charts and the way that you've kind of shown me the interpretation, and it seems a lot more logical than the circular charts. The Vedic charts seem like they make a lot more sense. So I would absolutely love it. And if you want, we can actually spend an entire session and you can use my chart as an example, and you could teach people how it is that you do the interpretation, because I'm quite open to that, and good or bad, I need to know the areas where I can improve and the things that are going to help me along in life. So I would absolutely love that. So
that's true. That's true. And I will not go very much into the prediction side of things, but I would be more focused towards teaching side of things. Why I'm saying is a simple logic. A person goes to an astrologer whose him whose time is not going good. In simple layman terms, his own Mahadasha is not going in his favor. So that means he will lose business. So to lose business, he will do wrong interpretation, and if he do wrong interpretation, that will affect the life of the person who had gone to that. So I usually I've done interpretation in the past. So usually I've changed my focus. I usually teach, give all the answers, and then let the consciousness of that person who has come to me decide it how it should be interpreted, because he's the best judge. Why? Because I cannot get into your mind. I will give overview of what I read. All right, but it's your consciousness needs to decide which possibilities. Okay, OJ has given me 3 possibilities about my life, about my character, about my nature. Okay, which one to choose? You will be right on the nail on the very first thing, because you know yourself better than I know you. Understand?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that, as you were talking about astrology and everything, that how it builds upon itself and it moves from one thing to the other, and it's all decisions that you go along the way. So this is a scarf, and I crocheted this scarf. Okay. It's not finished yet because there's more that's going to be added to it. But this scarf, it starts off as a chain. Okay. And from the chain, you then have a decision to make. You decide whether you're going to make shells, or if you're going to do something that looks a little bit more like a box weave, or if you're going to use, I mean, these are very simple stitches. This is like a double crochet. I think it's very chunky wool, but this scarf is the way it is because I chose to make it this way. I don't use patterns most of the time when I sew, or if I'm doing crochet. And even sometimes when I've been called upon to do some public speaking, especially at the last minute, I'm very good at going off the cuff. And with my crochet, it's very much the same way. It's like, okay, I think I know what I want the end result to look like, but I am going to have to do certain steps to make it look that way. And it's very much like what you were talking about, that it's not necessarily telling somebody, well, you should do it this way. It's more about, well, these are your options, right? You can do, a half double crochet, a triple crochet, or whatever. You can alternate the pattern, but it's going to give you a different result. Your life will look different based on the choices that you make along the way. So,
that is. Yeah, you hit the nail. And there's a theory also that is quantum physics. If you have read quantum physics, where scientists tell that your life exists parallelly. It is all about the options that you make, and it could turn your possibilities in some different directions. Actually, it is an illusion. So it is a different world. It's all in your mind. Actually, the creation is your mind. It's not anywhere else. So, like we are talking now people will say I have gone mad. Now we are talking, we are just at the crossing of the time and space, where we have come together at a different at the same time, intersection of the time and space, and then after some time we just again continue our own path, and probably we'll stick for some time, and then we'll leave. So it's just a time and it's a point in the space where there's an intersection of time and space. So this is all about. I'm not a physicist, but I just pretend to be. Don't worry.
No, but I find this stuff very interesting. I mean, okay, so in our family, we're very much science fiction fans, and and there are beliefs out there that people talk about past lives, and other people talk about simultaneous incarnations, where there's actually different parts of your soul that are actually incarnate at the same time. So it's like a big sandwich and everything's happening at exactly the same time, but that there's these parallel streams that are happening, and it's not necessarily sequential, but it's like one on top of the other on top of the other, and that they're all connected through energy. So I find the subject very fascinating. You know, I really hope that someday we'll get to the technological point where we have a transporter so nobody has to drive anymore. So, but on that note, looking towards the future of things to come, how about we sign off for this week? And because we've had a really great discussion, and I really like where it went. It was this one was fascinating, and I'm glad we talked about some books and some other resources that we have. But so to everyone who joined us and watched today, or if you are watching in the future for the recorded broadcast, again, my name's Marianne Hutchings, and you can find me on Twitter at Luscious Tech, and you can find OJ Singh at Global Multipods on Twitter as well. And feel free to reach out to us on Twitter and have any questions about anything. We are welcoming your input and your feedback, and we look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time and 9:30 p.m. Is that right?
Yes.
IST. Okay, super. So thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.